establish a summary evictions diversion initiative with a mission to provide judicially supervised program that utilizes care teams, community partnerships, and stakeholder collaborations to address the holistic needs of the individuals and families at risk for eviction and housing instability. With this implementation of holistic, sustainable, and community-driven strategies, this eviction diversion program provides landlords, tenants with the time, information, and resources necessary to resolve their housing problems without prolonged litigation. Again, welcome to today's announcement. With that, I'd like to welcome Mr. David Slater from National Center for State Courts. David Slayton.
Thank you, Jessica, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm David Slayton, the Vice President of Court Consulting Services for the National Center for State Courts. It's an honor to be here with Governor Sisolak, Chief Justice Zaragoza, Justice Hardesty, and all of you. I'd also like to thank Clark County and the Las Vegas Justice Court for their leadership in this important work and for organizing today's event. Today, we're here making a significant announcement about the new partnership that will positively impact how our courts and our communities can work together to address the eviction crisis. Let's be clear, the eviction crisis was a crisis before the pandemic, was highlighted by the pandemic, and will continue to be a crisis if we don't do something about it. The National Center for State Courts has been at the forefront of working with state courts all across the country to establish eviction diversion programs since the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know, the pandemic resulted in severe economic stress for many families, exacerbating an ongoing affordable housing crisis. Our team at the National Center worked with courts across the country to stand up new eviction diversion programs. We helped both landlords and tenants impacted by the pandemic find connections to rental assistance, legal aid, mediation, and other stabilizing services in their community. These critical actions helped families stay housed while making landlords mostly whole and relieving the strain on communities from having unhoused tenants. The programs provide landlords and tenants with the time, information, and resources necessary to resolve their housing problems in the least harmful way. They can help tenants stay housed, landlords become whole, and strengthen communities and local housing markets. In June, the National Center for State Courts announced a groundbreaking new partnership with the Wells Fargo Foundation to launch the Eviction Diversion Initiative. This 4-year grant program offers funding, technical assistance, and a multi-jurisdictional evaluation to a national cohort of state and local courts. Today, we are thrilled to announce a two-year grant of $240,750 to the Las Vegas Justice Court. The county and the court will use these grant funds to refocus its eviction court on preventative rather than reactive resolutions to housing problems. By centralizing resources within the court and offering them earlier in the eviction process, the new program will give landlords and tenants the best chance at mitigating the harm of eviction and maintaining housing and financial stability. The Las Vegas Justice Court, like all of the courts participating in the Eviction Diversion Initiative, is committed to holistic, sustainable, community-driven strategies to resolve legal problems related to housing. NCSC will work alongside the court in doing this important work, offering technical assistance and sharing national best practices to support them in their mission. Under the leadership of Chief Justice Zaragoza and with the support of the Clark County government and many of the stakeholders here with us today, the Las Vegas Justice Court is poised to become a true leader, permanently transforming the housing court landscape in Clark County and serving as a national model for change. We're grateful for the opportunity to work with the Las Vegas Justice Court and are excited to see how eviction diversion and court reform can truly change the way courts do business. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium over to Eileen Fitzgerald, Head of Housing Affordability Philanthropy for the Wells Fargo Foundation. Eileen?
Good morning. Thank you. Everybody can hear me okay? Yeah, great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I think, although this is a, both sad and stressful topic, it is pretty heartwarming to see this level of interest. So we really appreciate that. And it's just so important for people to come together and really focus on housing affordability and keeping people housed. These are some of the most urgent issues that our country is facing today. I want to especially thank Clark County for hosting this important conversation and playing such a leadership role in addressing this challenge in Southern Nevada. And I particularly want to thank Governor Sisolak for being here today, also to David Slayton and the team at National Center on State Courts, who is just one of the best teams I've ever worked with in my career. Your incredible leadership very, very early on the pandemic on eviction diversion, I think really changed not just the trajectory for courts, but also made people around the country see that there are solutions that are possible. So much thanks to Chief Judge Zaragoza of the Las Vegas Housing Justice Court and Justice Hardesty of the Nevada Supreme Court. Your leadership is why we're here today. And then also I'd like to give special thanks to Captain Jonathan Clark from the Constable's Office as being an incredibly important part of this conversation. Finally, I'm almost done with these. I'd like to thank and recognize Brian Formasano, who is our Wells Fargo, Nevada Banking Director, Connie Wright on our Housing Affordability team, Wendell Blaylock, who I know so many of you know, who's our phenomenal new community relations leader here in Las Vegas, and Derek Giannano from our government relations team. As with all of these things we know, and many other Wells Fargo folks who have helped put this together. So we all know how important an affordable quality home is, whether that home is rented or owned. And we know the stress of what losing that home does to a family, to a parent, to an individual. How many lives are upended every time that there is an eviction? And we know that there are opportunities to do better. We can't maybe change it, 1,000% overnight, but we can turn this around, and that is what this effort is trying to do. And when it comes to avoiding evictions, the barriers people have to navigate are complex, systemic, and they disproportionately impact communities of color. According to the Aspen Institute, and studies from cities throughout the country have shown that people of color, particularly Black and Latino people, constitute about 80% of the people facing evictions. You add to this challenge the wage losses, the health issues that people suffered and are continuing to suffer during the pandemic, and it only compounds the problem. And we know that housing insecurity is particularly hard for kids who have to move around, change schools, have that level of instability that just makes things even more tough. So with eviction moratoriums ending, we see eviction filings rising everywhere, including here in Las Vegas and Clark County. So now really is this time to act. There really is not one solution, but this cross-sector effort, I believe we can start to change eviction trends in this country. So we're really excited to be here to celebrate and discuss this $1.25 million grant to the Las Vegas Justice Court, and it's made possible by the $10 million grant that we have made to the National Center on State Courts for their eviction diversion initiative. This grant to Las Vegas is one of several that was provided by NCSC to courts around the country in this first round of funding, and there's a little bit more to come in the future. Las Vegas has taken strides to improve its eviction processes to create a more equitable system for the tenants under the current statutory constraints. We know that this grant will enable them to implement a summary eviction diversion program with a care team model, joining with community partners and stakeholders to keep more people housed. One of the reasons we fund this is because no matter how many places we can fund, 10, 20, 30, that's a drop in the bucket. But the lessons that you will learn, the models that you are all showing from coming together and making these reforms, we know that can be spread across the nation, and National Center on State Courts is great to do that. So this grant is part of our ongoing focus at the Wells Fargo Foundation on housing stability, which has included efforts to keep nearly 400,000 people housed in working with organizations during the pandemic, and working with 27 nonprofits across the country that provide free or low-cost legal assistance. Obviously, again, there's community partners, everybody who's particularly critical here. So I want to thank everyone in this room who is part of this process. These efforts, combined with financial institutions like ours opening up more avenues to capital and credit, and this kind of funding can really make a change. So thank you so much for all you're doing, and most importantly, for all that you are going to do about this. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Fuilala Riley of Help of Southern Nevada, one of the key community partners in this initiative. Thank you.
Well, full room. Thank you for coming to this event. This is a momentous sort of celebration of some really amazing cutting edge, if you will, programming and partnership. This morning at Help of Southern Nevada, approximately 1,300 individuals woke up in a Help of Southern Nevada program bed. These are formerly unhoused individuals. And although that is who we serve the most of, it is super important that we as a community really invest our time and effort into diverting folks from becoming the Help of Southern Nevada unhoused client, right? So, and then what this program even does more is, as I was thinking about this project, I actually said, hey, this project has 5 things that the general public would agree is super intimidating: a courthouse, a courtroom, a judge, law enforcement constable, and elected officials. But this time it was brought together for good. The one thing we have, those entities have in common with providers is we are dealing with folks in crises. And the more we do of this, the more effective we become as a community. So I thank you very, very much for this opportunity. I look forward to affecting the lives of those that come through our doors, whether it's at the courthouse or through our doors as a community. So thank you very much, and looking forward to more.
Hi, I'm Jim Hardesty, Associate Chief Justice of the Nevada Supreme Court. I'm honored to be here today and grateful for everyone's participation and interest in this topic. I've known David for a long time, 18 years plus since I was on the Supreme Court and a participant in the Conference of Chief Justices. David is an outstanding administrator from Texas, and now the National Center has the benefit of his services. When this unique opportunity presented itself, all of us in Nevada were ready to roll and advance our cause. And David, I'm so grateful that the National Center has taken the leadership, as you do on so many other state court issues, to address this topic and provide this opportunity. So on behalf of the court and on behalf of the judicial system in our state, we're grateful to the National Center in general, and to you and the folks in Williamsburg in particular. Thank you. And to Wells Fargo Bank, this is an amazing grant and initiative on their part. And we're so grateful, Elaine, that you did this and that the foundation has done this. But it's not new for Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo has been an active supporter of initiatives that the judiciary has put forward, including a leader in interest on lawyers' trust accounts that help provide support for legal aid. Let me just share with you that in 2007, when I was on the court, when I first joined the court, legal aid or interest on lawyers' trust accounts generated about $500,000 a year. Today, through the collaborative effort between the Supreme Court and the banks in this state and the lawyers in this state, this December that number will be $6 million. So these efforts on behalf of these banking institutions are transformative, and that's precisely what is happening here. A little bit of background, and I won't keep you too long, but I do want to mention this because there's a lot of folks in this room who deserve a lot of thanks and recognition for all that they have done. About 2 months after the session ended in 2021, I convened a group of folks consisting of Clark County's staff, legal aid organizations, a number of folks from the nonprofit area, and the governor's office and the treasurer's office, because the problem that existed at the time was that the problem was so vexing. Trying to connect people with dollars was just an administrative nightmare. And it became essential that we communicate with one another. And so that started weekly meetings. I'm sure that you are sick and tired of seeing me on Zoom meetings, but it was nice to see all of your faces personally today. But I just want to thank and congratulate the staff members of Clark County who took the initiative, and the court staff who worked closely to try to identify what we could do to advance the eviction mediation program and connect tenants in need with dollars available for landlords who had been put on the sideline without rent. And it sounds like it's a simple process, but believe me, it is not. And the sheer numbers make it very, very difficult. So my thanks to the legal aid organizations, the court, and the county. And through that effort, I happen to believe that it set us up pretty nicely for our application for the grant. You know, the Las Vegas Justice Court is one of very few courts that have been given this opportunity, and I believe will set the standard for the rest of the country on how best to implement this process. And I want to give a special shout out to Chief Judge Zaragoza. Many of you know her. She is an incredible person. Very, very talented judge, very smart, knows the administration of the court system in and out, and yet has put up with really a hair-pulling problem. But I am so grateful to her and her leadership. And I also want to extend a vote of thanks to the landlords in this state. Did you know that the grant application that was written by Judge Zaragoza and her staff was supported by letters from the Apartment Owners Association as well as the other landlord association groups? And to all of them, I want to extend my sincere appreciation for their willingness to support the grant effort. I think it shows, David and the folks from Wells Fargo, that Nevada's got it together, and we're going to really make a difference here in this project. I'd like to introduce the governor, and before I do, I just want to make a couple comments. You can't get any of this done unless you have the support of the governor's office. And in particular, you can't get any of this done unless you have the support of the governor. And thankfully, Governor Sisolak took a personal interest from the time this pandemic problem developed into the housing needs of all Nevadans. And I just want to thank you, Governor, on behalf of the Supreme Court and on the whole judicial system for all of the time and effort you spent, the meetings you held, the texts we exchanged, the harassment that I subjected you to. But I really think your support of this effort, both in terms of staff and dollars, has made a huge difference and set us up, I think, for the next round of potential success. So thank you very much, Governor, and this is Governor Sisolak.
Thank you. Wow, this room is full. It's so nice to see. I appreciate it, and thank you for that very kind introduction, Justice Hardesty, and thank you to everyone who has done so much work over the past years to keep Nevadans housed through the never-ending challenges we faced and the obstacles that we were presented with. When I had to make difficult decisions to ask Nevadans to stay home to protect Nevada, many in this room got right to work and make sure that Nevadans had homes to stay in. That work was critical and saved lives. James Hardesty, Justice Hardesty, I don't know where to begin. I had the pleasure of being at a small retirement party that he had up in Reno last night. I stopped in before I jumped on the plane to come down here, and he flew down here for this meeting. I was coming down here for other business, but he flew down for this meeting. That's how important this is to him. And we are going to truly miss him on the Nevada Supreme Court. I mean, he has been incredibly kind and patient and understanding. I've told the story last night. I remember my first pardons board meeting when I'm up there with everybody there as an attorney except for me, you know. But Justice Hardesty walked me through it, gave me cheat sheets to get through and understand exactly what we were doing and understand the system. And, Your Honor, I sincerely appreciate that. But your commitment to the state of Nevada and to our residents is unchallenged, and we sincerely appreciate all that you do for us. Thank you so much for being a partner to bring us together, to work us towards a common goal. I know that commitment won't end at the end of the year as you leave the bench. It will continue with us, and we thank you for that. Barbara Buckley, I don't know where I begin with you either. Thank you for always accepting a challenge that's brought before you, for being part of the solution, not part of the problem. You never accepted a system that didn't work for the betterment of Nevadans, and we thank you for that. Judge Saragosa, Justice Saragosa, Chief Judge, thank you for stepping up to lead us along the way here. We sincerely appreciate what you've done. This is its first of a kind eviction program, a diversion program that will be a model for other states around the country. That's why we're here today. Every Nevadan deserves a home and deserves to feel a sense of stability for themselves and their families. I'm proud that together we've provided over $369 million in rental assistance to over 70,000 households. And because of all of you, that's just the start. In many ways, this is a success story of lessons learned. Some things can work better than the way you always had worked out prior to that. Things can improve. Your work today is a testament to that. Nevada's eviction process can work better. Nevada, we can help families stay in need, that are in need, sooner and more effectively to prevent evictions, to keep families housed, to keep them together, to keep our kids in school, and to ensure landlords' livelihoods. That's why I recently allocated an additional $25 million in federal assistance to Clark County Social Services to ensure rental assistance doesn't end at a time when the need remains so very high, and to ensure that there is meaningful assistance available for the eviction diversion program that will make this eviction diversion program incredibly successful. Keeping just one more family in their homes is critical to us. It's important to me, and I know it's important to all of you. Just one can seem small, but it sure makes a difference to that one family. And because of the work through the Las Vegas Justice Court supported by Clark County Social Services, we'll be able to keep so many more families in their homes, one at a time. The eviction diversion program is a great example of the good work we can do together, bringing together state, federal, county, and private partners to tackle this issue. And to Wells Fargo, all I can say is thank you. You've been a tremendous partner. The resources you're providing are going to help us tremendously. I know this is a complicated issue to try and solve. Believe me, we've been dealing with this through the entire pandemic, and there were a lot of phone calls and texts and calls and meetings with Barbara, with Kevin, with the justice. We all worked hard to try to get a resolution here. But I'm proud of the time and the resources we've all put forward in this effort. And I look forward to the good that's going to be done here by paving the way to improve outcomes for all Nevadans. This is just one part of our solution to the housing crisis. We also need to make sure there's enough affordable housing for all Nevadans. That's why, through our $500 million Home Means Nevada initiative, we are building more essential affordable housing units for our lower-income Nevadans, our families, our seniors, our veterans, and our disabled. This project will help us narrow the gap and address the lack of affordable housing in our state. It doesn't get us to the finish line, but it's a big step forward. And there's more work to do. We can't and we won't stop here. Thank you to all of you for your dedication to this effort. It's essential to work to build a better, more equitable future for all Nevadans. Thank you for being here. And now I want to introduce Clark County Assistant Manager Kevin Schiller.
Good morning, everybody. First, want to recognize Wells Fargo and the National Center for State Courts. That the dollars that have been provided are critical to the services we provide. Legal aid, the governor, the state of Nevada, all our community partners. The one thing I wanted to reset to is, having been a social worker in this state for almost 30 years, very proud to stand here with these stakeholders, because the one thing we deal with day in and day out is people. And as the governor just said, one person makes a difference. So recognizing our staff, recognizing the collective effort, the pandemic that we just went through created a crisis across multiple levels. But if you really get down to it, it's about people. And we are in the people business. And when we did, as you look at this room and you look at the stakeholders, what we were able to do is collectively use the crisis as opportunity. And I will tell you, sitting on Zoom calls on Saturdays and talking and trying to figure out how we would solve problems, it's about the collective. It's about people taking it from a yes instead of a no, about looking at how we can innovate to change things. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about in the human services world is what this represents. I think we can be a model. We are still in a human services pandemic. I want to really emphasize that around the economics and what we see. But what's happening is this system and how we have changed this system will ultimately make every dollar go farther, but actually help more individuals. So I really want to emphasize that. I want to, again, recognize Wells Fargo, recognize our state partners, the governor, and our community for really stepping up and being a part of this process. And I'll leave you with one thing at the end of this. We were working on budget a few months ago, and one of the things that I wanted to emphasize, somewhat to echo what the governor was saying, in our social services realm, we have seen a 458% increase in our program scope. What that says to you is that's the increase in the program scope, but translate that to people. So that shows how important this is, and I really appreciate the grant and really appreciate everybody coming together. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome our panelists.
Can you say and spell your name to start?
Melissa, Melissa, Saragosa, Saragosa.
And your title?
I'm the Chief Judge of the Las Vegas Justice Court.
All right, just in a nutshell, what's going to happen here this morning?
So this morning we're having a media event announcing the Las Vegas Justice Court being a recipient of a $1.2 million grant through the National